Your son Bill gave us a little bit of a biography, and we noticed, and it's something all the years I've known you, I didn't know this, that you'd done your dissertation, your doctoral dissertation on Swift and
That's
Mandeville.
right.
And,
Swift and Mandeville.
To come here and you've taught everything, and you mentioned you taught 18th century, and of course I came in 18th century, you remember, but there were two guys, Dr. Davey and Dr. Nelson, ahead of me. I never taught an 18th century class at Eastern after writing my dissertation on Smollett. So that's
I taught
the way things happen.
I taught 18th century at Eastern. Yeah.
That's really funny.
When you came, Byno, was a 12-hour class load normal, or were they
No,
15?
15. At 15, and I've been here several years before they cut it to 12.
That must have seemed wonderful.
I worked hard here at Eastern. I tell you, right there at the last one, I did, I had wrote up those proposals to send to Washington to get those institutes here, and we got it. But boy, they had to know even the number of books in the library, and just everything that we and I wrote up it was a long thing.
And back then they didn't have a department of sponsored programs to help you do any of this stuff. You were pretty much on your own.
Yeah. Well, right at the last, I had help from a man who was sympathetic. He knew I was working awfully hard. I had a lot to do teaching my courses and running those programs. So he'd been brought over from Model Lab School to the president's office. He was assistant of some kind, and he helped me. He was all very understanding and very capable and very helpful. And then after that president was through, a lady, a man came for several years, and then a lady for several years more, and then I suddenly read in the paper that the boy who had helped me had become president. And he's president of the school now, and he was an awfully good boy. I really appreciate the way he helped me. And I predicted he would do well here, and I guess he did, because I saw in the paper the other day he's been appointed again.
Yeah.
But he was an awful lot of help to me.
Well, that's good to know that the president started out in that assistance role.
Yeah.
Not only did you teach a lot around here, but we also know you did some building, we understand, with some of the cabinets over in the
Did you do the
Johnson
cabinets
room?
in the faculty lounge?
No, I drew up an outline for them, but the industrial arts department made them for me.
Okay.
I had a big filing cabinet and file themes in it, and I guess it's still over there somewhere.
The reason we asked is it was there today.
Yeah.
What about the...
and the bookcases in my office, they built them for me.
So you designed those? Did you design the mail slots in the English department?
No.
Okay. We've just heard all sorts of stories about your carpenter skills.
You're sort of legendary around the department. I know that's hard to believe.
I puttered around at home. At my house, they built it, the walls, and finished the upstairs, but I built the basement myself. I put up the partitions in there and the ceilings and the fireplace, and I built the whole thing. I worked pretty hard at that. I built a room for the boys, and it was paneled. And I worked pretty hard.
Well, you were always concerned. When I first got here and was in the office with you, and I bought a house after my first year here, and I can still remember that you offered to come over and help me build a staircase and a doorway up to the second floor so I could rent the second floor of my house out and help me pay the mortgage. And I never did do that, but I still remember you offered to help.
Did you get it built?
No, I never did do that. I just kept the house and made the mortgage payments and lived in it, just my wife and I. So, but I remember that you made that offer in case I needed the extra cash. It turned out I didn't. But that was a
well, back
nice
when I came here, property was cheap back then.
Yeah, it was cheap even when we first came, but not anymore.
No,
that's for sure.
You know, when you came, Byno, we picture you right now very often drinking coffee in the faculty club.
Yeah.
You know, when we first came, you would take us over there. Yeah. We often would have to wait to get a table. That place was so popular.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, of course, the faculty seem to sit alone in their offices and checked their email and the internet. But when you came in '58, things were a lot more collegial, weren't they? I mean,
yeah.
you pretty much knew faculty outside your department.
Yeah. Well, we'd spend a little while every morning over in the coffee room. I met a lot of people over there. Yeah, we drank coffee, discussed everything, baseball and football, and everything but English.
And that's how you pretty much knew what was happening at Eastern. I mean, there wasn't a formal email system the way there is now. You would find out what was happening because somebody in another department would tell you.
When I came to Eastern, we didn't have anything but typewriters. And then they brought a lot of that machinery in and put it in a room over there. Oh, there was 8 or 10 big machines, and now you can put those all in your lap. They've got it down. But back at that time, it was they were amazing to us. But they had a room full of them.
You said when you came, there were only 12 people in the English department.
That's right.
And gradually it grew, so I'm guessing by the 70s when we arrived, there were 30-something maybe.
Yeah.
Do you remember any characters in the department? Do any people stand out in your mind? Like, for instance,
Kelly Thurman.
Phil Mankin.
Phil Mankin, John Long. John Long was a chairman for a while, and then he went over as a dean, I think.
Right.
Long, I thought a lot for John. He was too bad. He died.
Yeah.
But Kelly Thurman was chairman, and then John Long was chairman, and I guess I don't know who was chairman when I retired, but it may have been John. No, it wasn't John Long, but they had several along there.
The thing we associate you and Phil Mankin and Kelly with is you were scholars. When we were young professors, we didn't have an encyclopedias. We certainly didn't have the internet to look to. We would just walk into your office and ask you what something was, and that's how we would find out.
I know you made a film or something and told about giving me a word that didn't even exist, and I spent days digging in my Greek dictionary trying to find it.
We were impish that way.
But the point was you were so good at this that every time we asked you a question, you just would rattle it off, and we were just constantly amazed at your knowledge. So one day we decided we would play Stump the Professor, and so we made up a phony sort of Greek word and gave it to you. We didn't know you would spend that much time, but we should have, because knowing you, that's the kind of scholar you were. Yeah. You would want to know.
Well, I wanted to find it. Yeah. I taught I taught the Greek one summer here at Eastern. There's several people wanted it, and we set up a course in Greek, and I gave it that summer. But I have forgotten more Greek and Latin than I ever learned. No, honestly, it's just gone.
I guess if you don't use it.
I just don't. I've forgotten an awful lot.
I was telling somebody just the other day that your background of things benefited me so much in those early years that for my entire career almost, I used something you told me one morning about Spencer's The Fairy Queen.
Yeah.
And you told me about the daisy structure of the Fairy Queen and drew up on a piece of paper before you left to go to class the structure of that. And I kept that piece of paper with me, and I used that, I guess, for 25, 30 years of teaching in the World Lit section. And I always gave you credit. This is something my old office mate showed me.
Let's get it I got it from Dr. Finney.
Oh, see, passed it on.
When I was in graduate school at Vandy, and I passed it on to you.
Yeah.
Have you passed it on?
Oh, yeah, to many of my students and young teachers.
Isn't it interesting how the knowledge gets transmitted from one generation to the next orally?